Passion Travel is a channel specializing in all things travel street food and subscribe. Fish and chips. A classic British dish that you might find in a local eatery. Fish and chips is a beloved and iconic British dish that consists of battered and fried fish, typically cod or haddock, served with deep-fried potato chips, fries. It's a classic comfort food with a delicious combination of crispy fish and golden brown chips. Here's a basic recipe to prepare fish and chips. Ingredients. For the fish: 4 fillets of white fish, traditionally cod or haddock. 1 cup of all-purpose flour. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 1 cup of cold sparkling water, or cold beer for a lighter batter. Vegetable oil for frying. For the chips: 4 large russet potatoes, peeled and cut into thick strips. Vegetable oil for frying. Salt to taste. For serving: malt vinegar. Tartar sauce. Peas, mushy peas or garden peas, as preferred. Instructions. For the chips: preheat the oil. In a large, deep pan or a deep fryer, heat the vegetable oil to 325 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 160–175 degrees Celsius. Fry the chips. Carefully add the potato strips to the hot oil in batches, ensuring they're not overcrowded. Fry for about 4 to 5 minutes or until they're cooked but not yet golden. Remove and drain on paper towels. This first fry, called blanching, partially cooks the chips. Increase the oil temperature. Heat the oil to a higher temperature, around 375 to 380 degrees Fahrenheit, 190 to 195 degrees Celsius. Fry again. Return the partially cooked chips to the hot oil in batches and fry until they turn golden and crispy, about 3 to 4 minutes. Remove and drain. Season with salt. While the chips are still hot, season them with salt to taste. For the fish: prepare the batter. In a large mixing bowl, whisk together the flour, baking powder, and salt. Gradually add the cold sparkling water, or beer, stirring until you have a smooth batter. Fry the fish. Dip each fish fillet into the batter to coat it evenly. Carefully place the battered fish into the hot oil. Fry for about 6 to 8 minutes, depending on the thickness of the fillets, until they're golden and the fish is cooked through. Drain on paper towels. To serve: serve the hot fish and chips with malt vinegar, tartar sauce, and a side of peas, either mushy peas or garden peas. Enjoy your classic British fish and chips. This dish is a quintessential part of British culinary culture and is enjoyed in many countries around the world. It's often served wrapped in paper for a true takeaway experience. Pies. British-style savory pies, like steak and kidney pie or shepherd's pie. Pies are a versatile and beloved dish enjoyed in many cultures around the world. They consist of a pastry crust filled with a variety of sweet or savory ingredients. The type of pie can vary widely, from fruit-filled desserts to meaty and vegetable-packed savory options. Here are some popular types of pies. Sweet pies. Apple pie. A classic dessert featuring sliced apples mixed with sugar and spices, usually cinnamon, baked in a pastry crust. Cherry pie. A sweet pie made with fresh or canned cherries and often served with a lattice crust. Pumpkin pie. A traditional American pie made with spiced and sweetened pumpkin filling, often associated with Thanksgiving. Blueberry pie. Filled with fresh or frozen blueberries, sweetened and spiced to create a delicious dessert. Pecan pie. A rich and sweet pie made with pecans, corn syrup, and a pastry crust. Lemon meringue pie. A tangy and sweet dessert featuring lemon-flavored filling topped with a fluffy meringue. Savory pies. Chicken pot pie. A hearty dish filled with chicken, vegetables, like carrots and peas, and a creamy sauce, often topped with a pastry crust. Shepherd's pie. A British classic made with ground meat, traditionally lamb, mixed with vegetables and topped with mashed potatoes. Steak and kidney pie. A savory British pie filled with diced beef and kidney, often in a rich gravy. Quiche. A French dish made with a savory custard filling, typically with ingredients like cheese, bacon, and vegetables. Tourtière. A Canadian meat pie, traditionally made with ground pork or a mixture of meats, and seasoned with spices. Spinach and feta pie. A vegetarian option featuring spinach and feta cheese, often with onions and herbs. Hand pies. Empanadas. A type of hand pie popular in Latin American and Spanish cuisines, filled with various ingredients such as meat, vegetables, or fruit. Pasties. Traditional savory hand pies from Cornwall, England, typically filled with meat, vegetables, and a pastry crust. Bangers and mash. Sausages served with mashed potatoes. Bangers and mash is a classic and hearty British dish that consists of sausages, bangers, served with mashed potatoes, mash. It's a simple, comforting, and flavorful meal that's often accompanied by rich onion gravy. Here's how to prepare bangers and mash. Ingredients. For the bangers, 4 to 6 pork sausages, traditional bangers, or your preferred sausage variety. 1–2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. For the mash, 4 to 6 large russet potatoes, peeled and chopped into chunks. 4 tablespoons of butter. 1/4 to 1/2 cup of milk. Salt and pepper to taste. For the onion gravy, 2 large onions, thinly sliced. 2 tablespoons of butter. 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. 2 cups of beef or vegetable broth. Salt and pepper to taste. Instructions. For the bangers, cook the sausages. Heat the vegetable oil in a large skillet over medium heat. Add the sausages to the skillet and cook them, turning occasionally, until they are browned and cooked through. This typically takes about 15 to 20 minutes, but cooking times may vary depending on the type of sausages used. For the mash, boil the potatoes. Place the potato chunks in a large pot of salted water and bring to a boil. Cook until the potatoes are tender, which usually takes around 15 to 20 minutes. You should be able to easily pierce the potatoes with a fork. Mash the potatoes. Drain the potatoes and return them to the pot. Add the butter and a portion of the milk. Mash the potatoes until they are smooth and creamy, adding more milk as needed to achieve the desired consistency. Season the mashed potatoes with salt and pepper to taste. For the onion gravy, caramelize the onions. In a separate skillet, melt the butter over medium-low heat. Add the sliced onions and cook them slowly until they become soft and golden brown. This caramelization process can take about 20 to 30 minutes. Make the gravy. Sprinkle the caramelized onions with flour and stir to combine. Gradually add the beef or vegetable broth, stirring constantly to avoid lumps. Simmer the gravy for a few minutes until it thickens. Season with salt and pepper to taste. To serve, place a generous portion of the mashed potatoes on a plate. Top the potatoes with cooked sausages. Pour the rich onion gravy over the sausages. Serve immediately. Bangers and mash is often served with peas or a side of vegetables. It's a classic British comfort food that is both satisfying and delicious. Ploughman's lunch, a traditional British cold meal with cheese, bread, and various accompaniments. Ploughman's lunch is a traditional British cold meal that originated as a hearty and simple lunch for farmers or ploughmen working in the fields. It typically consists of a selection of cold or room temperature ingredients, arranged on a plate or in a lunchbox, and served with bread or rolls. Here's how to assemble a classic ploughman's lunch. Ingredients. Cheese. The centerpiece of a ploughman's lunch is a hearty wedge of cheese. Cheddar is the most common choice, but you can also use Stilton, Red Leicester, or other regional British cheeses. Bread or rolls. A couple of slices of crusty bread or rolls are essential for making sandwiches or simply enjoying with the cheese. Pickles or Branston pickle. A tangy chutney or pickle, such as Branston pickle, is traditionally served with the cheese. Cold meats, optional. Some versions of Ploughman's lunch include slices of cold meats like ham, roast beef, or pork pie. Pickled onions. Small, pickled onions are a popular accompaniment. Hard-boiled eggs. Some variations include hard-boiled eggs, sliced in halves or quarters. Tomatoes and cucumber. Slices of fresh tomatoes and cucumber provide a refreshing contrast. Salad greens. A bed of lettuce, watercress, or arugula can be used as a base for the other ingredients. Butter. Butter can be served with the bread or rolls. Instructions. Prepare the ingredients. Slice the cheese into wedges or cubes. Slice the bread or rolls. Arrange the pickles or chutney in a small serving dish. If using cold meats, slice them into thin strips or pieces. Peel and slice the hard-boiled eggs. Wash and slice the tomatoes and cucumber. Assemble the ploughman's lunch. Start by placing a bed of salad greens on a plate or in a lunchbox. Arrange the cheese, pickles, and any cold meats on top of the greens. Add the pickled onions and slices of hard-boiled eggs. Serve the bread or rolls alongside, along with butter. You can also add a dollop of mustard or mayonnaise for extra flavor. Enjoy. Ploughman's lunch is typically served cold or at room temperature, making it a convenient and satisfying meal for picnics or lunches. Ploughman's lunch is highly customizable, and the selection of ingredients can vary depending on personal preferences and regional traditions. It's a delightful combination of flavors and textures that celebrates simple, quality ingredients, making it a popular and beloved British meal. Roast beef. A hearty roast beef dinner, often served with Yorkshire pudding and gravy. Roast beef is a classic and timeless dish that involves slow roasting a beef roast until it's tender and succulent. It's often a centerpiece of traditional Sunday or holiday dinners. Here's a basic recipe for preparing a roast beef. Ingredients. A beef roast, commonly a ribeye, sirloin, or tenderloin roast. Olive oil. Salt and pepper. Garlic cloves, optional. Fresh herbs like rosemary or thyme, optional. Instructions. Choose the roast. Select a high-quality beef roast. Different cuts of beef have different characteristics, so choose one that suits your preferences. Preheat the oven. Preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, 165 degrees Celsius. Season the roast. Rub the beef roast with a little olive oil to help the seasonings stick. Season the roast generously with salt and pepper. If desired, you can also insert slivers of garlic or fresh herbs like rosemary or thyme into the meat for added flavor. Sear the roast, optional. In a hot skillet or roasting pan, sear the roast on all sides until it's brown. This step isn't mandatory, but it adds extra flavor and a nice crust to the roast. Roast the beef. Place the roast in a roasting pan or on a rack in a shallow baking dish. Roast the beef in the preheated oven. The cooking time will vary depending on the size of the roast and the desired level of doneness. Use a meat thermometer to monitor the internal temperature. Here are some approximate guidelines. Rare, 120 to 125 degrees Fahrenheit, 49 to 52 degrees Celsius. Medium rare, 130 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit, 54 to 57 degrees Celsius. Medium, 140 to 145 degrees Fahrenheit, 60 to 63 degrees Celsius. Medium well, 150 to 155 degrees Fahrenheit, 66 to 68 degrees Celsius. Keep in mind that the roast will continue to cook after you remove it from the oven. Rest the roast. Once the roast reaches your desired level of doneness, remove it from the oven and let it rest on a cutting board for about 15 to 20 minutes. This resting period allows the juices to redistribute and ensures a juicy and tender result. Carve and serve. Slice the roast beef thinly and serve it with your choice of side dishes. Common accompaniments include roasted vegetables, mashed potatoes, and gravy. Make gravy, optional. You can make a simple gravy using the pan drippings by deglazing the roasting pan with a little wine or stock, then thickening it with flour or cornstarch. Roast beef is a classic dish that's perfect for special occasions or Sunday family dinners. Adjust the seasoning and cooking time to achieve your preferred level of doneness, and be sure to let it rest before carving for the best results.